Hello, welcome to another music historian interview. Today I have the lead singer of Parker Woodland, Erin Walter, here with me. And in case you don't already do so, please make sure to follow Music Historian on Facebook, or if you already have a WordPress account, follow me on WordPress. My blog is Music Historian. Here, let's listen. And I want to welcome Erin Walter to the conversation. I know that Parker Woodland just put out an EP called The World's on Fire, and you are a Unitarian Universalist minister and an activist in the girl rock camp scene. Working in the church has enabled you to bring together musicians in a space to create music. Tell me about how long you've been doing this and the moment that led you to create Parker Woodland.
Well, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. You know, it's so interesting. We, the members of Parker Woodland are neighbors. And one day, so we all at the time had children in first grade. And so we would see each other at school drop off. And another parent who also works in a church, a different church, Episcopal, as a music director, but has all this, open space where you can play music. He said, "Hey, we're going to jam on Tuesday night. Do you want to come?" And I said yes. And so we got along, a lot of us, and the band grew out of that. And so in a way, it was separate from my own church work, but it certainly grew out of a church and with someone else who has that in his background. And then since then, I've sort of integrated it into my community ministry and bringing people in, whether they're from my Unitarian Universalist congregation, Wildflower in Austin, just to, jump on stage and play some extra percussion or tambourine, or to bring the songs with me when I go to different congregations and sing them, because they are about the message I have in the world, which is about, facing the struggles of life and basking in love and beauty and music at the same time, because I think both are required of us.
Great. And Ralph Cutler is the drummer, and Dan McMonigal is the guitarist. Why did you all name the band Parker Woodland?
Well, great question. We live near the intersection of Woodland and Parker in Austin. We can, most of us walk there. That's where this church was, where we first started playing. And the band and the messages and the work that I do in ministry and that my bandmates do is all about community in different ways. And so it seemed appropriate, and especially since the name Neighbors was already taken, I think, by a bluegrass band, it seemed appropriate to name the band after the place that we're all from and that we all celebrate.
Fantastic. Prior to the pandemic, I understand that anytime you performed live shows in Austin, Texas, members of groups from the other bands would join Parker Woodland up on stage for the World's on Fire finale at the end of each show. Did you ever learn what musicians found so attractive about this leading track?
Well, I hear from a lot of people, that they enjoy sort of that mix of exuberance and catharsis. And I think everybody, it goes back to when you're a teenager, right? Like really falling in love with music, like you just want to jump up on stage with your favorite bands. And so Austin has this great live music community, and the girls rock camp community is a really fun community to be a part of. And I also have played bass in a band called Butch County for a long time. So the queer music community in Austin has been, wonderful to me. And so all of those just kind of like a chance to celebrate each other and get up on stage together at the end just feels, I think, for everybody much needed. Especially even before the pandemic, there were a lot of hard times, and so it was a joy to just do that together every time.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And another song, Forget Your Face, is the second one on this 4-track EP, The World's on Fire. And what stands out about this song in particular is the chorus, like the fast repeating riffs of the half steps that are paired with the lyrics, I know it won't be long now, as I'm feeling strong now. To the ear, the riffs feel unsettling, and the listener is like subconsciously like anticipating a resolve to like a power chord and a major chord. And this song really differs from The World's on Fire. When when you wrote the songs, Ralph and Dan, when you write, do you begin with the music first and then the lyrics come later, or is it vice versa, or do they happen at the same time?
Oh, this is such a good question. And I'm a new songwriter. I waited kind of my whole life for this magic to happen where songs started to want to come out of me. I've always thought it would seem so cool, but I've always done other things. I've been a writer, you know, a journalist. I write sermons as a minister. But with this band was the first time that it really, really came out of me. And I write the songs, you know, the lyrics and the chords pretty fully on my own. And then I would summon the courage to bring them to this kind of jam that was percolating with these neighbors. And so for me, as a long time kind of just straight ahead bass player, it would be kind of like these straightforward bass notes and then the message that I wanted to bring forth. And so I didn't even think about something like maybe you'd expect it to resolve to a major chord or something. Like, that's new to me. And so I've been spending this pandemic actually reading some music theory and trying to learn about those things. But really, I write what feels innate to me. And then the guys bring their special, you know, interpretations or ideas. And that's where I think the real magic happens.
Wow, that's great. The final song on the record, Hit by a Bus, is an anthem about living life to the fullest. And just listening to your answer from earlier, I can see that you definitely live life and you're open to learning. And one interesting lyric that stands out in Hit by a Bus is, I've always been afraid to swim with sharks, and sometimes that gives us what we want, and sometimes life gives us what we need. And then you also say that, quote, one of the things I believe in strongly is that we should let each other in. And then I kind of hopped ahead in the quote, let people into your home or at least into your yard with a mask on these days. And figuratively, share your truth, share your struggles, end quote. Do you feel that people's truths come alive when they try to deal with their struggles? And does Hit by a Bus reflect that philosophy?
Well, so a couple of the songs on the EP, actually, the last two, Later Than We Think and Hit by a Bus, directly deal with my father's death. I was a young adult when that happened, and it's now been maybe 17, 18 years. And so I still draw upon conversations I had with him. And regarding Hit by a Bus, he talked about when his own father was ill, that they knew that they had said everything, like nothing was left unsaid. The love between them was all understood, and that was reassuring to him. And so that's part of what you hear in Hit by a Bus. The part about swimming with sharks, you know, always afraid to swim with sharks. I have a lot of dreams, and I'm like a really sort of determined, hardworking, aspirational person, and music is a part of that. And at the same time, I struggle with I'm not competitive. So I struggle with like the competitive nature of the world, of capitalism, of the modern definition of success. So this is me kind of grappling with that, like the desire to go for it, but also like, I don't want to be fighting with like sort of cutthroat, like, so I don't want to be swimming with sharks, right? I just want to like make joyful music with people that I care about. So that's kind of, I think, some of what you're hearing too.
Great. And just to be sure, the final words that your father had, it was with your aunt?
Yes, and Later Than We Think.
Mm-hmm.
So he was driving to work. Their last conversation before he passed of a heart attack, he had said to her, you know, sister, it's time to come home. It's later than we think, because she was grappling with whether to move home to Texas and be near family. And so this idea that like you should follow your heart, it's later than we think. And the part about loving yourself was also a message that he always gave to me, because he knew that, you know, as a minister, as a woman, as someone who wanted to be a mother, all of those things, the desire to care for other people is very strong, but he always taught me, if you don't love yourself first, who's gonna do it? So it's not selfish to love yourself and to care for yourself, and that's what a lot of that song is about too.
Mm-hmm. Understood. And also the song deals with a tough experience like death. And I wanted to ask you personally, what do you feel it is about rock and roll that helps listeners deal with these or cope with these tough situations?
Oh my gosh, I've been leaning on rock and roll so much this year, especially the catharsis, as I mentioned before, the sort of emotional resonance. And I also just like songs where I can, really belt it out. But I like songs that help me cry and think about, forgiveness and shame and loss and grief. And, music touches us in a way that I think almost nothing else does, and it's very connective. It connects me to people who've passed. Songs that I used to listen to with my dad bring him right back to me. So I just think it's just a very important part of the human experience that we can't really overstate, and that we have to be careful to tend to our need for music and art in this pandemic, because we're not getting it in some of the ways we're used to, and that's hard on the spirit. So I think it's important that people find ways to get, that creative nourishment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah, it's become harder now, especially that live shows have been pretty much canceled or they've moved completely online, which has been a good alternative. And that leads very nicely into the next question. You and your music are in the middle of a 60-city virtual tour. And this virtual tour has included performances in churches, one appearance at a peace benefit with Willie Nelson, and other appearances at women's conferences and some at Get the Boat Out events. What does a big virtual tour entail, and how do you get ready for it?
Yeah, this has been so amazing and such a silver lining. So I used to be a director and a chaplain for the YMCA of Austin at our major community center downtown. And we tried really hard for months into the pandemic to make it work. But like many organizations, and especially one that requires membership and a physical facility in some ways, the Y really struggled. And so there were a lot of layoffs, and I was laid off. My job was eliminated along with many others at the end of August. And so once that happened, this sort of chain of events took place where I signed up to lead one church service for a congregation in Indiana, I think in early October. And I was like, oh, well, my music video for The World's on Fire and We Still Fall in Love just came back from the editor. I'll share it with the congregation and I'll talk about joy and hard times and struggle. And I had such a great experience doing that. And then I took a breath and I went, well, wait, for the first time ever, and hopefully the last time, this year, all of church is online, church music is online. I could go anywhere and I could share this message of, what are your joy practices for hard times? How do you find love when the world is on fire? I could share that message everywhere. So I just hunkered down and I reached out to Unitarian Universalist churches all around the country, Canada. So a lot of it is Sunday mornings with those folks, but I can go to 2 or 4 congregations a week because of, I could be in the Eastern Zone, I could be in Pacific, from here in my house in Texas. And then some of it's pre-recorded during the week. And then so I share our videos, people sing along on mute, but then other things in addition to that, conferences. The Peace Benefit was for Campaign Nonviolence, which is a national organization. So, we sent our videos and little intro. Willie Nelson sends his, other folks send theirs. We did an MLK event that was online. Just there's so much you can do, and it's not the same. I can't wait to get back in person, but it's incredibly thrilling to be able to do it and, pay the bills with music and ministry from my home. So I'm so thankful. It's been great.
That's fabulous. And also the costs are cut now because you don't have to spend money on traveling.
Exactly. And as someone who cares about the environment, I'm not getting on a plane to go to Canada. I just go to Canada from my house. It's awesome.
I really like the world of Zoom now too, and just like virtual communications for that reason. I could talk to anybody, anywhere, and it's
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten to meet you. It's wild.
same here. I feel the same way. I get to meet wonderful people over Zoom, and it's great. And the EP, which is titled after the song "The World's on Fire," it was cut in one single day in August 2019. Am I right to guess that you, Dan, and Ralph finalized the songs before the album, or was this just done as an improvisation? I'm curious to know more about this.
Yeah. So we went out to a friend's studio in Bastrop, Texas, which is outside of Austin. His name is Jonas Wilson, and he has a small cassette label called Mr. Pink Records, and his studio is the Pink Room, and he's very much in demand here in Texas, especially. Someone just flew him up to Montana to work on her record this week. But so I'm just so thankful he was able to squeeze us in, because we were a brand new band. He and Dan had played together in a previous band many years ago. So that was kind of our connection as a new band, getting to go to his really nice studio. And the songs, basically the way we chose these 4 songs was we had recorded 4 other songs ourselves, very DIY, in the Episcopal church space, which I'm going to release as kind of a B-sides bedroom tapes kind of thing later this year. But we had done those, again, without really intentionally choosing which ones to record that day. We just wanted to record a few before I went on a work trip to Africa. And then when we got back, I just thought, let's record the other 4 that we know really well. And we did it the week before our very first live show. So we've never even played live as a trio yet. So it's very much a snapshot of the start of our band. Not perfect, but really, passionate. And I'm just thankful that we made the time to do it, because it's hard. We all have kids, we all have jobs. It's hard to squeeze it in, so.
Absolutely. And Parker Woodland is your job on top of your job being a reverend and a musician too. You said that you did a tour in Africa. I mean, I'm very curious about that. I know that this was 2019, so travel was still okay then. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so that wasn't a rock and roll thing, but another one of my joy practices that relates to music is I teach Zumba, and I'm a women's rights and human rights activist. And so I had gotten hooked up with the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders a couple years before, and was working with a women's rights activist in Lomé, Togo, which is in West Africa. And we wrote a grant. She invited me to come out there and teach Zumba workshops for women to become leaders there, because there they have Zumba a lot like we do in the States, but men are predominantly their fitness leaders. And she wanted to help women become empowered to teach these classes. And so it was a really fun experience. It was kind of, in the Riot Girl movement, they would say girls to the front and bring women to the front by the stage. So in these classes, we said, girls to the front, women to the front. And so they would teach the classes at the front, and the male dancers would be at the back. So I let my music background inform pretty much all the areas of my work.
Fabulous. And
amazing.
Great. And what is the difference? Because I've taken Zumba courses, Zumba classes before. Is there a difference between how Zumba is performed in Togo and versus here? Do you see any differences?
It's not that different. I mean, the main difference is that women are predominantly the instructors in the States, and there it was men. But that's one of the beautiful things I think about Zumba, because it's really, it's Latin music focused, but it brings world culture and world music together. And there are certainly, I think, more Afrobeat songs utilized probably in Zumba there, but it was very, very similar. And I didn't speak French, so there was some translation going on, but it felt like not a struggle at all. Like, it's just such, music and dance are such universal languages. And that was really reaffirmed for me when I was there.
Mm-hmm. And on the topic of music, just going back to that, do you feel that any elements of Zumba kind of influence your music too, like Afrobeat or some of the Latin chords?
Well, what I would say in terms of dance is that one of my all-time favorite bands is Raina Maria, and the lead singer, Kate that band I read once was a dancer, and I could see the way dance came out, and she was a bass player and lead singer, songwriter for that band. So that was like planted seeds, I think, of what was possible for me as a bass player and somebody who secretly longed to be a singer and a songwriter. So I think of her as a role model for me. And then in terms of like Latin and Afrobeat stuff, I think it's mainly that it just keeps me in love with music and open to all kinds of music all the time. It really is. There's almost no type of music that I'm not interested in some way. I grew up with country music here in Austin, and of course I experienced church music as well. I just love, I just love it. So I'd say that's the main thread.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Awesome. And I understand that it's difficult to live life as a reverend and a rock musician because both roles, like, they come with rigid schedules. And how do you find the flexibility to balance both of these?
Good question. What really the real struggle is parenting in a pandemic. I feel like ministry and music are actually more flexible than that. I'm surprised you can hear me talking because I keep expecting a third grader to break the door down. But I guess I think about the ebb and flow of my own energy and spirit, and I try to really trust that. I had a spiritual director named Kat Cox that I worked with when I was in seminary, and she used to just talk about trusting your flow and your ground of being. And I just mean that, like, today my back has really been hurting, and I was thinking about going to Walgreens to get medicine, but I really just wanted to take a nap before this interview. And I just said to myself, you know what? You're going to listen to your body. You need a nap more than you need anything else. And so that's what I did. And that's basically how I operate in everything. Like, that's where the virtual tour came from, is like, I felt in myself the joy that one service that I did for Indiana sparked. Mm-hmm. And then listening to that led to this whole thing, and so that's just kind of how it all works for me, I would say.
That's awesome. So you're still promoting the EP, The World's on Fire, and I know you mentioned, like, you have already recorded like maybe 9 or 10 songs, new songs. Do you see an LP coming out anytime soon? You and Parker Woodland?
Yeah, I mean, my hope is to do kind of that second EP by sometime in the second half of the year. And then when and if it's safe, which I hope it won't be too long, to record some of the songs that I've written over the pandemic as kind of an apocalypse love songs EP or LP. We'll kind of see how it goes. I love albums. I love the album format. And at the same time, that's not necessarily required right now, and like just putting things out. And again, this is my, like, what if I get hit by a bus? I just want to put the music out there. So it might be a little while before there's a full LP type thing, but I want to keep putting music out as long as, I can.
Excellent, excellent. And I know that The World's on Fire is now out on music streaming services, and you can buy the CD in its album format digitally on the band's Bandcamp page.
Yes.
Correct? Mm-hmm. And the music for Parker Woodland is currently on tour now. And it's 2/3 through, you said, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have dates right now on the calendar through May, and we'll keep scheduling stuff. But yeah, we did a lot October through now. But basically, we're at least one place every Sunday. So if you look at our website, parkerwoodland.com, you will find us. We are out there.
Understood. All right. Well, thank you very much for interviewing here on Music Historian's blog. Is there anything you would like to speak to which I have not talked about yet?
Thank you so much. I just really appreciate you having me, and I'm so thankful for everyone who's kind of keeping art and music and beauty alive. But I also want to say to people, I guess, who are tired, it's hard just surviving a pandemic. So, like, yes, it's exciting to have new music out, but also, like, if you're seeing this and you're like, how can anyone be putting out anything? I feel you on that too, because it's we have to take care of ourselves, you know, and like you mentioned, Patricia, this is music we recorded in 2019. It has taken this long, baby steps to get it where it is, you know. So I guess what I wanted to say is just to all the creative folks out there, just to take it one step at a time and rest when you need to rest, but don't give up, and get your art out there when you're able. Okay, whatever timeline it is, that's the right time.
Thank you so much, Erin. And everybody who's watching this, I want to say thank you for tuning in. And you can buy the CD on Parker Woodland's Bandcamp page. And everything is linked at parkerwoodland.com. I put in their address below. And thank you. This has been wonderful. Don't forget to like Music Historian on Facebook, or if you have a WordPress account, follow me on WordPress. Music Historian, here, let's listen. Thank you again, Erin Walter from the band Parker Woodland.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.